So with respect to yesterday, the Shaila of Dibur being associated after with Limud Torah. So in the footnotes, they actually tell, beginning of this Maimer, they say in general, for this Maimer, see a Maimer Tavshich Beis the following year, where he speaks to different Dibur Maschil, but there is much in common, but more elaboration in this later Maimer. Read you what it says there with respect to Dibur, Dafke, and Limud Torah. So first of all, he says, so as he mentioned in our Maimer, that limud has to be b'dibur, as that Rabbi Paskins and Hilchos Talmud Torah. Now, right away, I should say that there he says that obviously there's the mitzvah of the madatem, so that's specifically dibur. Iyun, understanding, is a separate mitzvah to understand Havon and Iyun in Torah. That's obviously with machshava, and that you the machshava. In fact, you can't be speaking all the time. You have to stop and think. But nonetheless, to makayim the mitzvah for the madatem, so that is dafke b'dibur. Fact. Now, what he goes on to say is, look, it is not a stidder to the maila of limud Torah, which is higher than tefillah. And yet we're saying tefillah is dafke machshava. And that's because since Torah becomes from a higher place, higher than tefillah, if it comes down in dibur, dafke. Like you find Riyah and Shmiya, that Riyah, when you see something, you actually see the thing. Shmiya, you hear about the thing. So nonetheless, because of this itself, so Shmiya, because you're hearing about something and it's lower, is the upshot of Shmiya. You can grasp a Ruchni is the thing. The Riyah can only see a Gashmi is the thing. But this goof is because of the mile of Riyah, because the Riyah is higher than Shmiya, therefore it's able to come down and see a Davar Gashmi. He goes on to say that the Torah has both miles. Because Riyah Gashmi is not Teifes Davar Ruchni. Hashenkin Torah does. So Torah has both things, Dibur and Machshava. Because in addition to the Dibur which we just mentioned, there's the mitzvah of Yediyah and Iyun. So Torah should be Ksav, he goes on to explain, which was this Galam Matan Torah, that is Dibur. Therefore, if a person says the words, if he doesn't understand, because it's a number of others, he's Mekayim the mitzvah of the Madatem, and therefore can be called up and make Baruch and Birchas HaTorah. On the other hand, just thinking you're not Yoitzer, but then there's also the mitzvah of Iyun and Yediyah, and that is Nafkin Bucherches, the meaning of the Machshava. So conclusion is that Torah has both in Yonim, Dibur and Machshava, but the mitzvah of the Madatem is Dafke B'Dibur. Now what's interesting is, when I get Tefillah, so Tefillah he says, is machshava, rusa deliber. And what's curl for? So curl is only to ma'ira kavana. We also had a little bit of need a clarification because Allah is that you have to say the word to be yitzik kriya shema, and tefillah you have to say the words. So the words are a hechler, not just be ma'ira kavana. So I didn't have the Maram Mekaymis and asked Levi to find it in Chassidus, but in halacha, there's interesting halacha. And that is if a person, like Megia Krishma, which is not Mamish Tefillah, but Bechlolis is Tefillah. But if a person isn't honest and he can't say the words because it's in the place where you can't say it, it's not clean. And it's Man Krishma, he should think Krishma, and even though he only yotze by saying it, he should still, Allah says, he should still think it in his heart, and Hashem sees into his heart and give him the schar of machshava, like he spoke it. He's thinking it, he can't speak it because he's in a place where it's unclean. So have to say Hilchos Tefillah, look further into this with that. This is Krishna. Hilchos Tefillah, we'll see. It's not what applies. All to bring out that there in here you see a case where machshava is paramount, so much so they don't say if you can't see, you're not so. If you can't say Krishna, you're not yotze. You can't say it, you're not finished. You can't say it. No, you think it because the ikar tefillah is Rusadil with the machshava. So if he can't say the words, nonetheless, he should do the ikar tefillah. Mashenkin Torah, the mitzvah of the mother term, that is dafke b'dibur. You have to say it. Separate mitzvah iyun. Again, conclusion Torah has both milas of machshava and dibur. The chiddush is dibur. What's interesting is I need to see Hilchos Talmud Torah. Hilchos Talmud Torah begins with the obligation to teach. That's how it starts. He's putting the mother of the Moishe as Benechem, talking about teaching. So even though the chayr it's iyun understanding, but the foundation of his teaching it to another person, starting with their own children, and that is obviously the dibur. So the unique hadgosha of limud HaTorah b'dibur, as the Maimon just said, Adrav, because it comes from such a high place, it comes down dafke in hadgosha dafke b'dibur. Clear? Somewhat clarity. Okay. So let's continue. So even further. So the Ashkenazi of Chabad, so he wrote, I don't know how many svarim, 5 svarim on Hilchos Talmud Torah. Could you imagine? Hilchos Talmud Torah is a few chapters. And he has Givaldige Ha'odas, as I see Arichas in this also, but it'll take me forever to learn it. And every word in Hilchos Talmud Torah, pages. Hilchos Talmud Torah was the first work that had to be published anonymously. Dafke. And got to the Gra, if I'm not mistaken, the Gra saw it and said, only a person with Ruach HaKodesh could write such a thing. Then it came out, it was the Alter Rebbe, it made big inroads in attracting the best and the brightest chassidus. It was published and disseminated anonymously, made a big stir in the Lomdische world, the Goynische world. We learn it, it's simple. And you see, it's Ashkenazi wrote on every word, pages. Every word. You get a sense. He won, by the way, the Israeli government gives out prizes for Torah works. He won some prestigious prize for Hilchos Talmud Torah. Okay. As I recall reading Chabad once, many years ago. Okay, so where are we up to? Pardon? Huh? Marsha Kosa, where are we up to? Yeah. So let's get the flow of things here. The flow of things here is the Iked Shaili is explaining now is why the Torah singles out Leisavada Eish Echel Mishmisechem and the Shalaz Bir, because that's the union of Eir, and that's the first Maimer Yehi Eir, and it's Kerl all the other Maimoris, which is what makes creation, which is what we are Leisavada transcending on Shabbos. Hence, the Torah singles out Eish as if to say that's the klal, which is kol all the pratim, all the prati halachas, all the lamates malachas, which are all malachas dealing with the bria, which we do not tamper with. Now, ba'omek, Yosef is the inyan of Eish, that the Eish, even as it is lamata, it is drawn upwards, conveying that even the oid is nimshal lamata nishtal shalos is be'etzem drawn upwards, meaning drawn upwards, that, as he said, elikus is not a creative force. It's something that the Eibush has chosen to do, but elikus is beyond creation. And that property is carried in the teva eish that is eila l'mayla. He went on to say that this is kol nikra b'shmi nelchveidiv barosiv yitzarti v'afasisiv. These are the barosiv yitzarti v'afasisiv. That's bria, the gimel eilumus. So kol hanikra b'shmi nelchveidiv. That's to be the amshochet, summoning forth of b'shmi nelchveidiv. In order that there should be barosiv yitzarti v'afasisiv, it has to be amshocha. It's not a natural thing. God is natural. Not as God. He's not naturally a creator, like an artist naturally produces his art. Let him do what he does. That's what he's going to do. So Eibush doesn't create. It's not what he is. So it's an amshocha that has to be called anikra. So he went into the pratim now of the three dargis of bria. That's God's desire. His chosen desire. There should be a bria. And the bria is laid out in these three levels of barasiv, yitzarti, v'afasisiv, having the parallel within the person, because he's the tachlis of bria, machshava dibur ma'aseh. And then he explains why machshava is bria, because machshava is oisias, that emerged the yesh ma'ayin, as it were, relatively speaking, in elam bria. Yitzartiv is where the oisias in a very nebulous state now create a form in dibur, and then asiya lamata. Yitzartiv v'erechosha. In our Veda, therefore, as well, since the whole kavana is in a template of three. Chlal, in Chassidus is mavur, and I'm sure it's connected and think about it. But the template of three is integral to the kavana. As we see, the Gemara says in Shabbos, the blessed be the Eibush gave a three-part Torah to three-part people by third born on the third day of the third month for their separation of the third month of Yetzias Mitzrayim. What's that Goshen number 3? Because 1 is 1, 2 is division, and 3 is healing the division. Sholem. It's still kavanah, is to create a tachten, separation. And in the tachten should be nizgale elikos, and make from the tachten, from division 1. From Shusa Rabbi, make it a Shusa Yochi. Hence, the number 3 is the template for Bria. The word Sholem has, I don't know if it's connected or not, but the word Shin obviously starts the word. There's 3 strokes that then come to a core base at the foundation. Torah was given to make peace. The deeper pshat is, aside from peace between husband and wife and children and family and harmonious living, as bechitzonius, the pnimi is the peace between the Elyon and Tacht, Gashmi and Ruchni. Akaponim, so therefore it's all in 3. Likewise, in the actual Avodah of Torah Avodah, Gvilas Chasad, that's what we just learned. Now, Torah Dibur, Avodah, Tefillah, Rusa de Libe Machshava, as we explain now, and then Maise, which is Maise. That's what we're up to. Yeah, Umasha Kosa, continuing now. So why is that? Why is the pasuk comparing the Eibush to Eish as it were? Why is this the Moshe? In addition to this, the Nimshach and the Bria, you say, is compared to Eish because of its tevel to be Eila L'Mayla. There's another point here. another property of Eish that's being conveyed by this Inyan. And that is Hu Gam Eish Eichla. The oil that's Nimshach Lamat is a consuming oil, consuming fire. Dugmas Eish Machal, Mabatal Sapsi, like physical fire that consumes and Mabatal the wick. And that's the only way that the wick becomes a proper keli in its to the fire is in its surrender. And the more easily it surrenders, the better the flame. But not like the various psilas, the various wicks the Gemara in Shabbos says cannot be used on Shabbos because it's not a clean light. Sachsechas means it like a knife, it's serrated, it's a flickering. A flickering light. I think Rashi means another pirush there that it surrounds, the fire does not really penetrate the wick, it hovers around it. And therefore the fear that a person on Shabbos will play with it. So it's not good. So what makes a good wick? A wick that is bottle. What does it mean? This inyan of what? That the psil has to be consumed. It's not enough to the mitzvah stam. If there's no bittul, it doesn't cost him his ego, and that's not enough. On this Chazal say, the Eibishter says, not Gemara brings a pasuk there about Gaiva. The Eibishter says, I can't be together with him in the same place. I told you the famous story of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov once came into a town and to the Beis Medrash, and he says, there's many stories that will bring out the same nekuda that he couldn't go when there was no room for him. There's no room for the Eibishter, there's no room for me. But once he said it's full, he said, full of Torah. It's full. It's not Eila L'mayla. There's no Av and Yira, no Bittel. It's all ego-driven, so it remains a matter that the Beis Medrash was full. They thought it was a compliment. They realized it wasn't a compliment. It's missing the Bittel. In Eliezer Bilvad, not only Shater the mitzvahs in Michel Lahamshich al Yodim, not only, so he's
Ain't a Kalim, nothing.
Ain't Kalim, yeah. Not only the Torah mitzvahs can't bring down, not Kalim to bring down the really key that it should be in the Torah mitzvahs. And the oil therefore remains undrawn down and remains as it is. In other words, he's connecting to it because he's doing Torah mitzvahs, but he's not being mamshichet. So it remains l'mayla. It's not to say that he doesn't accomplish anything. Be'etzem, even shalei lishma, be'etzem, atzmos he's connecting to. But the Eibishter's kavanah is not just to be present, but to be present begolui. And that is missing without bittul. Like the Alter explains in Tanya, the mush of the bird without the wings. So the etzem bird is there, but it's not eilalim, it can't fly. On the words of the Rebbe, the kavanah is it's a lichtik dir. That the dir we make for the Eibishter has to be a delightful and lightful one, where his presence is manifest, like a diamond that in the rough. I mean, in essence, the value is there, but it doesn't sparkle, doesn't inspire. It has to be polished, and the polish is the bittul. And that's what gives it its light. Its presence is there, but the oil is not there. So, no, he says, number one, there's the mid sentence. He's saying not only is not mamshir the oil, because of his yeshus, he adds to the nature of the departure of the oil that it naturally has. Because he's pushed the Shekhinah away. It's not only that the oil can't rest here, so it remains in its state. He actually, what's the word? He banishes it. The Gemara says, again, about the Balgaiva, that he pushes away. The Eibush is everywhere. The Eibush is everywhere. But if the Eibush says, I can't be in his Daladamas, he pushes me away. Hence, so it has to be dafke bebittel, otherwise he's banishing the Eibishter's revealed presence. Then his Torah mitzvahs are kelim to mamshe the like the fire that consumes the wick. And what is it? This is the Kabbalah soil. Kabbalah soil meaning that he's not driven by his mood, by his inspiration alone, or at all. The foundation is his Kabbalah soil, which means even when he's not in the mood, and doesn't want, and doesn't need. But Pratyasei said he doesn't. The Kabbalah's oil, he says the general Kabbalah's oil that needs to precede a state of mind and a commitment that has to precede before mitzvahs. Why Chachamim Mesader and Mesakim that we should say Shema before Vayim Shemaya. We see it doesn't follow the Seder in the Torah because Vayomer is in Pashas Shlach in Bamidbar and it's placed last. So you see there's a Seder doesn't follow the way they appear in the Torah. The Gemara answers Kadesh Kabul El Machush Shemaim Tchila first Shema Yisrael Kabbalah's oil and Vachakach Kabul El Torah Mitzvahs by Mishmai Tishma, which is the second parsha. In the Kolze Bavedes Tzadikim. So Kabbalah's oil is that's how it works. That's all you need, in other words. Bavedes Tzadikim. Kashayli put Derech HaYosha, Derech HaMelech. He follows the right path, the path of the king. Malka Shaloylam. He's something to the halacha that the king goes when the king is going. So we make a road, we make a path. Is the right to go in Yochid. It's a straight path and there are no obstacles. So if he's going in that path, so this is the Seder and Yonim. Shema Yisrael, and Kabbalah's oil, and Bittel. Omno Misha Chota, the one that transgressed. Pogam and blemish v'ovad, and that means transgress. Chota means sin. Pogam, blemish v'ovad saderech, and transgressed. V'chosel le'avideba achas agim la'kavanah is missing in one of these three kavim. Teravet g'mis chasodim b'meli asher v'yasam shocha. So it can't be mamshich. Kabbalah still isn't enough because he missed the opportunity. Kabbalah still can help going further. But what happened? The past. So for this, we need tshuva. Tshuva is mamshich and oy, which is even higher. I don't know if he says it here, but just looking at the Maimer, let me see if he says it. Someone could hit the number 6 there, please. Just pick up the receiver. Yeah. Yeah, no say. Okay. So he has the mamshich, even a higher oyer than is normally nimshach and Torah mitzvahs. The place about Shuvah stands means Dam Shocha ain't tzaddikim. Tzaddik Gomor cannot stand. I'm pausing because I'm just reminded of something that Nachum Zalman Gurevich said by Fabrengen in Australia. This is for Fabrengen, not here. So By the way, I did remember the other thing that I never said. This morning I thought about it for some reason. And it actually is connected about the Malachim. We were learning about the Seraphim and the found in the Chayes HaKodesh. So a word from Fabrengen, and it's also connected to this. The one who says it has to say little L'chaim, but more importantly, the one who hears it has to say L'chaim.
So we get some L'chaim.
Yeah. The tzarich lahavin, so now has bother in this whole thing, now let's see. It's about Tshuva Gedele Yosef. Why is the Avodah about Tshuva greater? The Bishlam Masha Avodah is about Tshuva tzarich is becheli yatir. You understand? Bishlam means over, it's peace, it's all good. That the Avodah about Tshuva has to be with greater koyach. Yatir means greater koyach. Yeah. Since he distanced himself greatly from his source, he's got to work harder. What does it mean he works harder? It means that even though that it's Tzaddik Gomer is very high madrege, he serves Hashem, he's bringing out the mile of the Chiliyati. He's Tzaddik Gomer served Eibishter with the year and Ava Betanugim, the love of the light, which is the highest Ava. Still, as we're learning now in Tanya, it's still someone who loves. He can't free himself from himself. And the Shama coming down, the Mata, by definition, no matter how splendid the Avodah is, he's distant from his Makkah. But a sin, distance is one, far greater. Since about Tshuva, has the sinner has this distance further. So to get to where the tzaddik is, he's greater effort. That we understand. To get to the unblemished state. But not understood, it should be equal. It takes more effort to get there. But what does it mean that it's tzaddik? For his avodah can't reach the Isa Madregish Magim Bali Tshuva. Remember somebody in Australia as a kid, he said that he always used to, from fella, he could never understand. He says here he is in From. He was born in Australia and without having yeshiva education and the Shabbos all his life and so on. And then Chabad came and Bali Tshuva, and he heard that Bali Tshuva higher, making Bali Tshuva higher than, he says, this guy lived the life of Riley, and now he decides he's going to be a Shem Shabbos. He's higher than me. My whole life I'm a Shem Shabbos and doing the right thing, and just couldn't digest it. Now the emphasis is there's different levels of tshuva. If it's just, as we say, just changing the lifestyle. Before I did this, and I decided I'm going to be free. That's not the tshuva we're talking about. We'll see. So let's continue.
Before this, he says that the way of the tshuva is
Chila Yati, yeah.
So the question why even within that
Cheliyat, we understand, it means it takes him more effort to get to where the tzaddik is, because he's coming from a further place. If that's all it is, we can understand that.
But why can't they get, why does that lead him past the tzaddik?
Yeah, how does he get, Pashat, why is he past the tzaddik? That's the shayla. So we're going to see what that Mr. Tshuva is, and that it's, okay, so we continue Be'ez Hashem tomorrow.